I think that mental illness is going to be the next big challenge we face as a country. I mean, I know we see all this stuff on the news and wars and all that stuff. Wars come and wars go. Presidents come and presidents go. But I think that this issue of mental health is going to be around for a while, in part because we have legalized marijuana in 40 of our 50 states, and that has caused a tremendous amount of psychosis, mental health driven cases fueled by legalized marijuana. And I've talked about it, online. I've taken quite a bit of flack for it, but I stand by what I see, which is that this legalized marijuana is destroying families. And we have kratom, which is another opioid you can buy at a gas station. So we're going to have a whole generation of people who are really messed up because we've made these mind-altering drugs so available. So this isn't going away anytime soon. So getting access to treatment is going to be really important.
All right, guys, welcome to the Winner Circle podcast, where we bring you conversation that equip you to lead, grow, and navigate life's most important challenges with wisdom and clarity. So today's episode covers a topic that is deeply important, highly sensitive, and often misunderstood: the intersection of mental health, addiction, and legal system. So for many families, these challenges do not just bring emotional pain. They also bring confusion, fear, and urgent decision that can feel a little bit overwhelming. And when a loved one is struggling, many people simply do not know what legal option exists, what rights they have, or how to take the right step toward help and healing. And this is why this conversation matters. My guest today is Mark Astor, an experienced attorney with an extensive legal background that includes serving as a Palm Beach County Assistant State Attorney, leading multiple county court divisions, and handling thousands of cases ranging from misdemeanors to capital murder. So today, through Astor Simovic law, mind me, Mark has been recognized for his work in Florida's mental health and addiction legal system, and his firm is dedicated to helping families navigate crisis with clarity, dignity, and access to clinically appropriate treatment options. And his work goes beyond legal representation, and that's one interesting part of this. It is about support recovery, protecting families, and helping people make informed decision in some of the hardest moments of their lives. So in today's episode, we are talking about mental health, which a lot of people shy away from. We are also talking about addiction and the legal system, and which focuses on what every family should understand. So if you are in the situation, you need to stop whatever you're doing and listen to this conversation. It's very, very important. We're going to explore what families need to know when a loved one is in crisis and how the legal system can play a role in treatment and protection, and why understanding the right options early can make a life-changing difference. So this conversation is not just for regular people, it's for everybody, because you might be in that situation. You need that knowledge for posterity's sake. So this conversation, every family leader and community member need to stick to this show so they can learn from it. So we're going to get into it. But before then, my view is that mental health and addiction are not just personal struggles. They become family and legal realities very quickly. That is why understanding the system, the option, and the right time to act is so important. So make sure you listen to this conversation with our great guest for today, Mark Astor. Welcome, Mark.
Jay, how are you? It's so nice to see you, and I appreciate you having me on as a guest. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. I don't think I could have said it better myself. So thank you for that.
The guest for today is a great attorney from the state of Florida. So if you look at this topic, Mark, it is a very important topic and also a very sensitive topic. A lot of people might shy away from. We often talk about business a lot on the Winner Circle podcast, but this particular conversation is very, very important. I want every entrepreneur, business leader, whoever you are, you need to listen. So from your experience, why do so many families feel lost when mental health, addiction, and the legal system starts colliding?
You have a podcast that promotes entrepreneurs, right? And I like to think of myself as an entrepreneur because what I did was I built.
Your website is your hardest working employee. If it's not building trust and converting visitors, it's costing you growth. At Nixall Designs, we don't just build websites, we build business assets. We specialize in high-end website design, strategic redesigns, and high-converting landing pages. From custom e-commerce experiences to integrated lead capture systems, every pixel is shaped for performance. Our strategy-led approach ensures your brand identity is clear and credible across every device. We bridge the gap between creative design and the technical systems that drive real results. Stop settling for a website that just exists. Start growing with a digital presence built to convert. Look credible. Grow confidently. Book your free consultation today at nwixalldesigns.com.
The first law firm that was designed to help families like the ones you're talking about, Jay, and give them an option that before they didn't have. So I built a law firm business to help those people. And as you correctly pointed out, it's a very sensitive topic. And I think part of the problem is that these issues, these types of issues are somewhat stigmatized. But I think more importantly, before we came along and started to talk about what we were doing and how we were helping people, I think a lot of families had said, well, what are we supposed to do? Do we just, sit here and watch things deteriorate until something tragic happens? Or do we hope that the state steps in and takes this person and puts them into, either a state mental health hospital or worse, the county jail, right? And I don't think before we came along and started talking about what we're doing and how we're using the legal system here in Florida to help people, that the idea of actually calling a lawyer to solve what is very much a family problem had even occurred to anybody. So that's my journey as a legal entrepreneur, as it were.
So, but looking at this situation, why do you think people often wait too long before seeking legal guidance in this situation?
Yeah, that is such a great question, Jay. I think a couple of reasons. Number one, I think there's a bit of a stigma that people seem to think that this is a conscious decision by their loved one, and it's not. It's a behavioral health disease, and I think they hope that that the disease will just eventually go away, or their loved one will grow out of it, and so I think there's some of that. I think there's also, there's a reason they call it a family disease, because it's like a metastasizing cancer, and see, it infiltrates all of the family. Now, part of the problem with getting somebody into treatment, at least on a voluntary basis, who has a behavioral health issue, is part of the disease is the denial that goes along with it, right? You say to somebody, you have a problem, and they say, there's nothing wrong with me. So if there's nothing wrong with me, why should I go to treatment? And what happens is that it infiltrates the family, and the family says, well, there's nothing we can do about it, or, this will eventually go away, or things of that nature. Or they take the position that, if we do something, it's going to upset them and they will hate us. And we don't want this person to hate us. And so there's all this bad energy going, around all of this, and nobody can see the forest for the trees. And what's really going on here is that it's not just the loved one that's ill, it's the family too. See, they've caught the cold, the proverbial cold, as it were. And that's why nobody can make a decision to either get this person into treatment or hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they not only go, but that they stay long enough. Because the key to recovery, like any disease, is that it needs treatment for long enough and that is appropriate, clinically appropriate for it. And so because part of the disease is the inability to save oneself, it then requires somebody else other than this person, for instance, the parents or the spouse, to step in and say, I'm going to make the decision that my loved one cannot make, which is the decision to save them. And once that decision has been made, and then the commitment to actually do something about it, to take action occurs, then the recovery process can start. Then the chaos starts to subside. The nightmare starts to pass, and the whole family can heal together. But when everybody in the family, or at least a significant part of the family, is unable to make that decision for a variety of reasons, then nothing's going to change, because nothing has changed.
Nothing's going to change. So, looking at your experience, you've handled thousands of cases in your legal career. I would want to say, what drew you specifically into the area of mental health and addiction law?
Yeah, so Jay, way back when I was with the state attorney's office, especially when I first got out of law school, so I had interned with the state attorney's office in 1993, and it was really the only job that I wanted, that I certainly pursued out of, upon graduation from law school. I loved being in the courtroom. It's where I felt like I was equal to, the best of the best. I can't tell you I was a particularly good law student. I wasn't passionate about, law. I wasn't one of these kids who had to read every single case and, fancied themselves as the next Supreme Court justice. But I got in the courtroom, and that's where I loved being. And I went back. I was a full-time assistant state attorney from 1994 to 1999. But early on in my career, what I noticed was I was seeing the same faces over and over again. And these were people with behavioral health issues. I later come to learn they had behavioral health issues. But back in the 90s, we didn't have what I call diversionary courts, meaning we didn't have special courts in the criminal system for people with mental health or drug issues or veterans. We didn't have a veterans court. And so the mandate, even today in Florida's legal system, is to punish first and rehabilitate second. Well, back in the 90s when we didn't have these diversionary courts, if the mandate is to punish and not rehabilitate, if you keep coming back often enough, then eventually the state had no choice but to try and lock you up for as long as they possibly could, right? Because you kept committing crimes and getting arrested. After I left the state attorney's office, because after 5 years there, I was really burned out. I tried 200 jury trials in 5 years, right? Which is a ridiculous amount of trials in that short a period of time. I was literally in trial every single week for 5 years. I mean, that's insane. But I did it because I love trying cases. And more importantly, I had a real passion for helping people. So when I was in a felony division, which is the last year and a half I was there, and I tried 50 felony trials, including a couple of capital murder cases, I was representing, shouldn't say that. I had typically had a victim of a violent crime, or I had the family of a decedent if it was a murder case. So you can't unring the bell, right? The train has already left the station, but you can get somebody some justice and give them closure. And I found that very personally satisfying. But after 5 years, I was just done. I was just fried. I left. I did defense work. I made a lot more money, and I was completely miserable. Anyway, I tried for a long time not to practice law. And back in 2015, I met somebody who ran a business helping lawyers with the business side of running a law firm, which is not something that they teach any law student at any law school anywhere in the country. I mean, they barely teach us enough law to get through the bar exam, let alone teach you how to run a business. That's not happening in law school. So unless you had a business background and perhaps you decided to go and open up your own law firm, either on your own or with somebody else, you have no idea how to run a business, right? And you're also trying to practice law at the same time. Well, I spent a year working for somebody who teaches lawyers how to do that. And I spent a year working for him, and I decided at the end of the year it was time to open up my own law firm. And I think one of the things that was important to me was to get that passion back for being a lawyer. And I realized I had close family members and friends who had these issues. Now, I got to tell you, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had a background in criminal law. I'd read about a statute we have here in Florida called the Marchman Act, which is a statute that allows us to place somebody into treatment where there's a substance use disorder. And at the time, there were only 2 lawyers who were dabbling in it. And I said, I'm sure they're good lawyers, but I'm going to build a whole law firm helping these people. And by the way, the Marchman Act is only a small piece of what we do, even today. So what we have is still unique, even though there are other law firms out there trying to copy us. There is nobody that has the resources, that has the skill set that we do. We operate under 3 statutes, and occasionally people get arrested. And understanding how those 3 statutes, and they are the 3 statutes here in Florida that allow us to put somebody into treatment and get control of an out-of-control situation, right? Understanding how those 3 statutes work together in combination with the criminal justice system, because people with behavioral health issues get arrested, and I say this with all due respects to my competitors, is a unique skill set that we possess. There's nobody else anywhere in the country that can do what we do, that understands the civil commitments and the criminal arena and how they work together. Because if you let somebody get sucked into the criminal justice system and you don't know how it works, guess what? You may not get them back. And we don't want people going to jail and prison because nobody gets better in jail or prison. So I built a whole law firm around this. Now, you have a show about entrepreneurs, and I think that's why you wanted me to come on. So when I decided to open up my own law firm in February of 2016, I sat down in the local library here in Boca Raton, just 5 minutes from my house, because at the time I had no money to start a law firm. I didn't. So I sat down in the local library because they had free Wi-Fi, and it was a comfortable place, and they had decent coffee. And I hustled. I called people. I made coffee appointments, lunch appointments. I got really, really, really cheap business cards made from Vistaprint. And I ran around to treatment centers handing out my business card, telling people what I did. And it took 14 months before somebody called me with my first Marchman Act case. And so I took other cases. I took criminal cases. I took family law cases. I represented a student athlete here in Florida who got himself in trouble with a female student. I mean, I took different kinds of cases because I had my bills to pay. 11 months in, I unexpectedly lost my dad. So I had to pay for a funeral.
Sorry.
So it's okay. So it was a crazy time for me. But I was, I'm very, the entrepreneur spirit, Jay, is something that you either have or you don't. It's God-given, right? The problem is sometimes you don't find it until you absolutely need it. And I found it when I needed it. I was able to tap into it because, see, my father had been an entrepreneur. My dad left school at 14 and my mother left school at 16 and my father built businesses. Some worked, some didn't, right? And I learned a lot from my dad. And I didn't realize how much I'd learned until he was gone. But see, I realized I had grit. And that's what it takes to build a business because not everything is smooth sailing. Every single day brings challenges. I met my wife, my now wife, the second year, because by the second year in 2017, I had a very small office, which ironically we still have, but don't use that much. And for the next 6 years, so for the first 7 years, it was just me and my wife doing everything: sales, marketing, meeting with clients, drafting pleadings, running to court. You name it, we did it. And it's only been the last 3 years that we've been able to hire staff. I now have a team of 15 people. And ironically, here's the irony. The company that I worked for all those years ago, 2 years ago, I went back as a client. I'm now their client, and they helped us to restructure the entire law firm. So we have 15 people. I have an internal chief operating officer now. I have a chief marketing officer. These people are all internal. I also have a fractional CEO and a fractional CFO. It's run like a business. Systems, policies, procedures, all of that stuff, okay? We have budgets. We have marketing plans, right? And we are constantly looking at the business, right? My practice does the work, but my business is what makes the phone ring and helps us to sign clients. Because at the end of the day, Jay, I am selling legal services. I have a small group of potential customers, but the business of my law firm is to sell legal services. Like any other business, it's sales. If you're not selling anything, you're out of business. So that's my story, my friend. That's how I got here. That's how
That's
you
a
and I
powerful story.
got to be here.
That's a very
Yep.
powerful story. So let's talk a little bit about the people, they're having mental health struggles. Well, from my research about this topic today, I know a lot of families are afraid of making the wrong move. What would you say they should understand before taking any actions?
So I think they need to understand that it's a disease and that, like any other disease, it will eventually destroy the patient and your family. That's number one. Number two, there's no shame in this, right? It used to be, don't tell anybody, right? It's embarrassing, right? I think those days are for the most part long gone. So I think that's important to know. And number three, I think it's important for people to know that the part of the disease is the fact that for the most part, the person who has it is not able to make the decision to save themselves. The disease robs them. It effectively hijacks their brain. So they are not able to make the decision to save themselves. Now, does that mean that every person that has a substance use or mental health issue would not voluntarily go to treatment for long enough? No. I mean, otherwise we'd be marching half the Marchman acting or filing for guardianship over half the population. But there's a significant percentage of the population that's dealing with these issues, and just can't make that decision. And if they can't make it, then who can make it for them? Because, one of the options is you let the state do it, which means they either go to prison or they go to a state mental hospital. And in my experience, the state does not do a very good job of taking care of people, not with behavioral health issues. So I'm here to be the catalyst to help to empower the family so they can make the decision, not the state, not waiting for their loved one to one day wake up and have this, flash of lightning come down and suddenly they realize they need help. No, it's about the family, right? And our motto is we save families. That's our motto.
So for if you look at this right now, you talk about the state's options, which could be incarceration or mental health facility. So what would you say are the kind of legal options families may not realize are available?
Yeah, I mean, so we have 3 statutes here in Florida, Jay, that allow us to get the family varying degrees of control based on what their requirements are and how out of control the situation is. So, for instance, I mean, it could be anything as small as getting a court to give us an emergency order so that we can pick somebody up off the streets and take them to a place of safety and keep them there for 72 hours. Typically is followed by some type of hearing where we want to send somebody to treatment for the next 3 months. Or it may include the family wants access to medical records. They want to control someone's finances so they don't, use them for nefarious purposes. We might want to restrict their ability to travel so they don't run away. We might want to apply for benefits on their behalf so that, the government can pay for some of this stuff. We might want to take away their driver's license. We might want to decide who they spend time with and where they live. I mean, it really depends what the family wants, right? How much control do you really need, or do you want? And also, what evidence do we have so that we can go into court? Because a lot of the time we're going to, our timelines for filing these cases is very compressed. I mean, this is not like a civil case where the thing drags on for months and months and months, and we're taking depositions and propounding interrogatories. I mean, we get the case. We're typically in court within sometimes within a day. We're filing something. Usually there's a 24-hour time, turnaround, and sometimes even quicker. I mean, we'll work till 10, 11 o'clock at night to get something filed for a client. I mean, these things move very, very quickly. And we are normally in court for a full-blown hearing 10 days at the outset, maybe 5, certainly within a month. I mean, by the time a month goes by, we've probably been in court twice already, or maybe even 3 times. So things move quickly, because by the time, families get to us, we're sort of the last port of call. Maybe they hear me on this podcast and they said, oh my goodness me, there's a lawyer out there who can help us, right? Or I don't know, they got referred to us by a clinician, or they saw a YouTube video. I mean, whatever it is. And they suddenly realize that there is an answer to, to the question, which is, how do we end the nightmare? So we're the last port of call, right? As my late father reminded me, nobody wants to call a lawyer, and they sure as heck don't want to give us any money, right? Who wants to give money to a lawyer? And I say that tongue in cheek because I've heard all the lawyer jokes, but we're a very different kind of firm. So yeah, I mean, there's help there, and we can save your family. But recovery is a journey. It's not necessarily a destination. It takes time, right? I mean, I wave the wand, but it might take a year from now for you to say, okay, we're done, right? Sometimes it's quicker, but I tell every family. And interesting, it's funny, and I was just speaking at, last Friday, I spoke at a conference, and there was a forensic psychologist, a good friend of mine, and somebody who I trust implicitly with these kinds of cases. He gave me an interesting statistic. You see, we've been telling families that they should expect this to take a year. You don't have to hire our firm for a year, but it takes a year for somebody not only to experience recovery, but to develop the skill set necessary to maintain it. And the statistic he gave was, if you can keep somebody in recovery for a year, there's a 70% chance that they never relapse. 70%. If you can keep them in recovery for 5 years, there's an 83% chance they never relapse again. So you can...
Still losing customers because follow-ups are slipping through the cracks? POVCRM brings your leads, conversations, appointments, payments, and automated follow-ups together in one powerful platform. Manage everything from one unified dashboard and never miss a beat. Stop chasing your business, start growing it. Visit povcrm.com and start your free trial today.
So you understand, I tell you that because that first year is absolutely critical to the rest of their life, right? But the catalyst for that to happen is getting them into treatment, making sure they're med compliant, making sure they do what needs to be done, making sure they follow the continuum of care for the second 6 months of the recovery journey. Because if you can do that, then the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that nightmare that the family's been living in can finally be over. But it all starts with making the commitment their loved one cannot make, which is to save them. And I know that for families, it's frightening. It's uncomfortable to go to court. I get it. And we know that, which is why I don't do anything else, right? I'm not handling divorces or car accidents. I don't even take the criminal cases. I send them to another lawyer. So, this is why I built an entire law firm doing just this one thing, so that we can make sure that clients get the best experience with us and get the great result that they've called us for.
Oh, that's cool. I trust your judgment. But now let's take a look at it this way. What happens when someone gets legal help? Because I'm really vested in this conversation. What happens when they get legal help, but they can't get the right care? Which, I mean, as a lawyer, you don't handle all that.
Yeah. Another great question, Jay. I think one of the great disparities in our system is the fact that great treatment is not available to everybody. And what I mean by that is, obviously, when we're dealing with a family, the question that comes up is, okay, we can help you. It sounds like you have a good case for us to be able to go in court and make sure that this person goes to treatment. The question is, where are they going to go, right? And when I say where are they going to go, I think what we're having a conversation about is who's going to pay for the treatment? Is there health insurance in place? Does the family have financial resources that will pay for it, maybe in addition to insurance? Or are we not, or does this family not have the resources or health insurance? Okay. Because if that's the conversation and there is no resources or health insurance, then we're talking about placing somebody in a county facility, like something that's funded by the local government. Now, for the most part, they do a good job. The problem is that they're overwhelmed, and getting a bed in there in a facility like that can be challenging, right? So the great disparity, Jay, is that great treatment is not equally available to everybody. And I, frankly, in a country, like I'm like you, I come from a different country. I've been here 39 years. So I believe in the American dream. But I think one of the things that I'm not okay with is the fact that really great treatment is not available to everybody. And it should be. And that's a problem, right? I mean, if you don't have money or health insurance, are you going to get as great a treatment as somebody who does? Maybe not. Okay, that doesn't mean say that all the county facilities are terrible or there aren't. I know there's a phenomenal religion-based program down in Miami. They'll take you for a year. I know they do great work. Used to be, even here in Palm Beach County, we had the sheriff used to run what's known as the drug farm, right, which was getting people out of the criminal system into this really, really amazing treatment center. It was almost like a military boot camp, but they got great results. And they cut the funding for it, so they had to close it. So I know there's been some talk. I think Robert Kennedy, the Health and Human Services Secretary, has said that they're going to put some money into this. Perhaps it's well-intentioned, but I think we've also seen on the news that sometimes when the government throws money at a problem, that invites people who have nefarious intent, and it gets stolen and never gets to the people that really need it. And that's a problem. But I think if we can make sure who it's going to, and it gets into the right hands and people actually get the help they need, then maybe this is a good thing. But until we can make really quality treatment available to everybody, I think this problem continues. I think that mental illness is going to be the next big challenge we face as a country. I mean, I know we see all this stuff on the news and wars and all that stuff. Wars come and wars go. Presidents come and presidents go. But I think that this issue of mental health is going to be around for a while, in part because we have legalized marijuana in 40 of our 50 states. And that has caused a tremendous amount of psychosis, mental health driven cases fueled by legalized marijuana. And, I've talked about it, online. I've taken quite a bit of flack for it, but I stand by what I see, which is that this legalized marijuana is destroying families. And we have kratom, which is another opioid you can buy at a gas station. So we're going to have a whole generation of people who are really messed up because we've made these mind-altering drugs so available. So this isn't going away anytime soon. So getting access to treatment is going to be really important.
It's going to be a long ride for this
Yes, you and I are
coming
going to be,
generation.
you and I will both be long. Well, you're going to be gray. I'm probably not going to have any hair at all. But you get the point, right? We could reconvene in 20 years and probably have the same conversation.
I hope so. What are some of the biggest misunderstandings society has about addiction, mental health, and the people affected by them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue is that the biggest sort of is the stigma, right? It's a conscious decision. Why don't they just stop using drugs, or why don't they just get well? Well, I mean, it's a disease, right? If you had cancer, God forbid, and I just went through my own scare for a couple of months with, my own doctors. I mean, it's like any disease. You got to treat it, right? So the idea that it's a conscious decision, it's a conscious choice. Maybe it was a conscious choice to stop, right? When we see these kids using marijuana, but there's a strong genetic component to this too, right? If you have a father or a grandfather who was a heavy drinker, there's a possibility you're going to be a heavy drinker too. So, I mean, what do we do? Say, well, it's their fault, despite the fact that there's a genetic component here and granddad was a raging alcoholic, right? Or, that maybe there's somebody in the family has schizophrenia, and now the adult child has schizophrenia. Is it their fault? I mean, we have to get past the idea that this is a conscious decision, and therefore we should punish the person for not being able to make the decision to save themselves. And I think once we get past that, then we can talk about how do we address it.
So for you, from your experience, if someone is listening right now and has a loved one in crisis, what would you say are the first steps they should take? Who should they call first, or what information should they gather, and what should they stop doing immediately?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So one of the dilemmas that we face, Jay, when we speak to a family, and it's normally the mum that calls first, but inevitably, even if the parents are divorced, okay, unless one parent is just not around, right? We have to speak to both parents, because sometimes they're doing this. And one parent says, well, we can't live like this. And so they have to leave the house. We're not going to give them any money. We're not going to support them. Right. And the other parent says, I don't want that. They'll end up on the street. And that's probably true. I don't think putting them out on the street solves the problem. And the parent who's objecting says, no, we want to keep them at home. and we need to, make sure they, we pay for the car and their food and their whatever it is, right? So they're going to what I call enable. Neither of those things, even though they're sort of diametrically opposed, solves the problem. So I think the first part of this is that the family, the decision makers, the people who are going to make the decision to save this person, have to be on the same page and realize and appreciate the fact that their loved one has a disease and that it may require them to make the decision to save them. Now, if they go to the loved one and say, listen, do you realize that you have, you're drinking too much or you're smoking too much, right? You have a problem. If they're able to acknowledge it and say, you know what, you're right, I don't want to live like this anymore, and they're willing to go to treatment, which can happen, then great, you're on the road, right? At that point, I don't think that you necessarily need me. But if you're dealing with this and the person's like, there's nothing wrong with me, go away, then I think you're dealing with a situation where the disease has taken hold to the point where the person's mind has been hijacked. They cannot make the decision for themselves. Now, how long does the family want to wait? How long do they want to watch their loved one suffer? And perhaps more importantly, how long does the family want to suffer? Because I promise you that when this is happening, it's the family that is suffering. They really are. Their loved one thinks there's nothing wrong with them, so they don't feel like they're suffering, even though they are. Right? It's the family, the people that are still in this universe that get it. So the question is, and sometimes families say, well, I'm waiting for them to hit rock bottom. No, it's not about them hitting rock bottom, because really their real rock bottom might be they're dead, right? It's about the family, the decision makers, the people that can save this person. It's about you hitting rock bottom. When have you had enough? When have you suffered enough? When are you done watching your loved one live like this and say, we're not going to live like this anymore. This is destroying our family. Okay. And again, that is very much a subjective decision. I'm not here to tell you when. This is a no judgment zone when you call my office. Okay. We're here to give you options. So the question is, when do you want to discuss those options? How far down the pipeline do you want to go? How long do you want to wait? I'm not here to tell you that you should save your loved one. I'm here to tell you, if you decide that you're ready to save your loved one, here are some things, some options that we can give you. And a lot of the time when we speak to families, they're in denial. Part of the disease, the family is in denial. I get it. I'm not going to convince you. I'm not going to try to convince you that you need to save this person. I'm not here to bully families and tell them you need to save your loved one or they're going to die. Now, if you want to have an honest conversation with me about the consequences of taking action versus the consequences of not taking action, as long as we're all going to be grown-ups, I'm happy to have an adult conversation with you and be very honest with you in a loving way about what can happen if you don't take action. And if you decide that you don't want to take action, that's okay. I'm not here to judge you. There's a higher power that does that. And if the options don't work, at least from where you're coming from, okay, then we part as friends. But it all starts with understanding that you got to take action. Right? You can't build a business without taking action. You can't build a new life without taking action. That's it.
So taking action, very, very important. So that's one thing that I tell people, even in the business world, like if you don't take action, there's nothing you can do. You're just wasting your time. So for the families that want to take action, what would you say they should look for when choosing legal and professional support in a mental health or addiction crisis?
Well, Jay, it's interesting you say that. So I think I told you, I'd had I had a bit of a cancer scare. For 2 months, I had 2 different doctors telling me they thought I had prostate cancer. And it's the second time in 5 years I've had this. Okay. And I insisted that my doctors, do all of the testing. And it turned out, despite their desire to put me under anesthetic and biopsy me, I made them do some testing, one of which was a brand new test that turned out that revealed there was nothing wrong with me. Okay. So what I did was when I first started having symptoms, I went to my doctor and I said, I'm having these symptoms. And what did he do? He referred me to a specialist, somebody who specializes in the type of cancer that they thought I had, prostate cancer. I went to a prostate cancer doctor, like a urologist, but not just any urologist, somebody that specializes in cancer for men. So the question is if you want to solve this problem, I always try to go to a specialist, right? I don't want somebody that treats prostate cancer and skin cancer and, brain cancer. I want the doctor that specializes in the one issue, the one problem that I need solved, because you cannot be a jack of all trades. You cannot do what we do and do car accidents and do criminal law and do family law and do immigration and be good at all of those things. It's not possible, right? It's like saying, I could be a lawyer and an Olympic athlete and an entrepreneur and I could run for political office. It's right. Physically is impossible. And so, as I told you, I built a law firm with one mission. And so if you're going to hire a lawyer to save your family so that your loved one doesn't die, I think you need a specialist. Now, maybe I'm not your cup of tea. That's okay. I'm not for everybody. I can certainly appreciate that. But I'd want a lawyer who specializes in saving families, not somebody that's a jack of all trades. I also don't want somebody who says, well, I'm the cheapest guy on the block, because cheap and great don't come in the same sentence. Do you want great or do you want cheap? You can't have both. If you're shopping by price and you just want cheap, I'm not your lawyer. And it's not because I'm ultra expensive. It's because I want clients that want the result, not the client who says, well, I only have X amount of dollars to spend. Because my response is going to be, then you better off to spend it on treatment, because I'm not going to take your money if I can't help you. Because taking your money when I can't help you doesn't help you. It just puts money in my pocket. And that's not what I'm here for. I've been down that road when I was a criminal defense lawyer. I put money in my pockets. Now, I did a great job for my clients. I was a pit bull in the courtroom. I got great results, and I'd try any case. Okay, but my focus has changed. Now, obviously, I got to put food on the table because I have a family, but I also have 15 other people, and they have to put food on the table too, which means I have to sell legal services, but I sell the right service to the right client. And if I can't help you, right, we're going to tell you we can't help you. And it may just be a lack of evidence. It may just be that, occasionally we get people who are just not a good fit for the firm. Right? They're looking to be the sword and not the shield. Sometimes, occasionally I get people who are looking to hurt somebody else. You got the wrong lawyer. So I want the specialist. I want the person that cares, that comes from a place of love and has the resources to get the job done. And when there's an emergency at 10 o'clock at night, if they're awake, they're going to take my phone call, because my phone's answered 24/7. And I tell clients, if I'm awake, I'll take the call. If I'm not, you need to call 911. But the phone's going to get answered by somebody.
So when you think about what you do, the marvelous work you do, what would you say success looks like for you? Would you say it's a Lego victory, family healing, treatment access, or something deeper?
Well, I think for success, the success is based on, how many people did we help? Right? Last year, we had our best year ever. We helped more people than ever. But in order to help more people this year, I have to grow the business. So I have to sell more legal services so I can hire more people, and then I can help more people. So it's all sort of circular. So for me, success means helping more people. I try to help more people than I did, this year, than I did last year, than I did the year before that. So if I grow my business, then I can help more people. And at some point, if we grow up big enough, guess what? I'll be able to give some of it away for free to people who can't afford us, who can't afford treatment. That's the goal, so we can serve more people. But it all starts, Jay, from treating the firm as a business. Because as one of my mentors told me, a broke-ass lawyer is no good to anybody. If I'm sitting here thinking, how do I pay my rent this month? How do I pay my electricity? How do I make my car payment? How can I possibly help you? I can't even help myself. I'm so worried about paying my rent, car bill, car payment, and FP&L, electricity bill. How do I possibly focus on helping you? I can't. So a broke-ass lawyer is no good to anybody, which means I have to run it like a business. So I don't have to worry about those things. And then I can focus on helping more people and doing a great job for them.
So how do you balance both being an attorney and an entrepreneur without losing the human side of the work?
Here's what I did. I fired myself from being an attorney, much to my wife's delight, because I found it, I only have so many hours in the day. We all do. And I found that I couldn't do all the legal work and take care of the business at the same time. And to be honest with you, Jay, what I decided was I was going to we have 2 associates. I think from a legal perspective, they're as good, if not better than me. They both have very unique skill sets. I learn something from them every single day. And what that's allowed me to do, it's allowed me to focus on the business. And I'll be honest with you, I enjoy that. I really enjoy that, right? I enjoy sitting here with you and just talking about our mission, because this is part of me growing my business, and you too, right? Because when this is done, I'm going to share it on my social media platforms and say, hey, you need to check out Jay. He's making a dent in the universe. You might want to speak to him about what he does. So, it's right. It's you put energy out in the universe, you try and help somebody else, right? So you're helping me because you have me as a guest on your podcast, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to share it on my social media platforms so I can help you. See, that's how the universe works. It took me a long time to figure that bit out. So I just focus on the business these days. Now, every once in a while I get asked to handle a case. If it's, maybe it's a VIP and the referral source is, it's got to be you. Okay, I'll take the case. Or occasionally there's a conflict on our calendar where the lawyer has 3 hearings set and only 2 lawyers. Then I'll handle the hearing. I'll take care of that. So every once in a while I get my finger back and, I get my feet back in the courtroom and the old fire starts to burn and I'm off to the races. But I don't want to do it every day anymore. I don't want to do it every day anymore because I like this side of practice and law, which is, running the business. Enjoy that, I think, more than I would running to court all the time. Because I got done, I've been practicing 32 years. I'm done with that. I don't
That's
want
a
to do
long
that
time.
anymore. Yeah, so I got a lot of miles on my body. My wife's 34 years.
Wow.
But that experience, as my father used to say, there's no substitute for experience, right? As good as my two associates are, they often come to me or my wife and they say, what would you do in this instance?
So for you now, looking at your experience over 3 decades, right? What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who want to build a business that is both profitable, which is very important as entrepreneur, profitability, and also deeply purposeful?
Yeah. So, there's a book out there that I read many years ago and it said, be so good, they can't ignore you. So I think you have to say, okay, who do I want to help? Right. Because I think if you can help people and you could build a business helping people, whatever that looks like for you, and you do your best to do it better than anybody else, eventually people will be willing to pay you to do it because you're the best at what you do. But look, it is not easy to build a business. Okay. I mean, it's been a long grind for 10 years. Now, maybe if I'd gone back as a client to the company I worked for after year 2 instead of year 8, I might have grown faster. Okay, fine. But I think my willingness to grind and take calls late at night and I still work 6 days a week, sometimes 7, sometimes late at night. My willingness to do what other people are not willing to do. In other words, I'm willing to outwork anybody else and everybody else. I really am. I'll outwork you. If there's competition around, I'm going to outwork them. It's that simple. That's how I know I'm going to win, because I'm going to outwork you. I'll never let somebody outwork me, ever, because I couldn't live with myself. That's how winning is done, Jay. Outworking everybody, dealing with the bumps, because there are bumps, there are good days and there are bad days, right? And you deal with them and you use discipline. See, discipline is doing something even when you don't feel like doing it. You do it anyway, right? And it's not motivation, it's discipline. And there's a difference, because motivation comes and motivation goes, but discipline stays, right? I get up every day, I brush my teeth. I don't always want to, but I do it because I need to, because it needs to get done, otherwise my teeth fall out, right? So it's about discipline and not giving up and keeping going. And as the great Winston Churchill once said, if you're going through hell, keep going. That is how winning is done. That's how winning is done. And that's it. I want to win. See, but my winning is helping more people. That's the winning. Oh, and by the way, I get paid to do what I do. I've earned that right. And when I've helped enough people, I'll just start giving it away for free to people who cannot afford to pay me. But that time hasn't come yet. We do a little. See, here's what we do.
Growth doesn't fail because of ambition. It fails because of missing structure. Point of View Consulting helps entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and growing organizations turn vision into clear strategy, stronger operations, smarter systems, and measurable execution. Stop managing chaos. Start building for scale. Book your strategic consultation today at pointofviewconsultinginc.com.
Instead of giving away free legal services, we sponsor local charities that help help people in the community. That's our way of giving back.
That's powerful. Thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Jay. I've enjoyed my time with you.
It's it's very outstanding, and I really enjoyed the conversation. As we begin to round up, I have just 2 questions for you. The second to last questions is for you, for a family watching right now, they're going to watch in 2 years time, 3 years time, because the recorded version of this conversation is evergreen. Whether you're watching 2027, 2028, or whatever the time is. And they said, okay, I want to reach out. We are going through these circumstances with our family member, mental health and all that. And we want to reach out to you and probably have a discussion with you. How best can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So Jay, our main website is mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. That's mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. And if for some reason you can't find that, if you just Google my name, I have 900 videos on YouTube. So one of the ways I give back is I put out content every day. I do 1, sometimes 2 videos every single day talking about the issues that you and I have discussed, right? And I base it on my experience, on real cases, and I give it away for free. So families can not only get the information they need, but they can also decide if they want to call me. So you'll find all of this content, wonderful content, hours and hours and hours, and you can have it all for free on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. It's everywhere. So if you can't find the website, you'll find me.
All right. Thank you so much for for at least giving them the gifts for the people in the future. Last but not the least, right? Looking ahead with what you're doing with your organization.
I think having a firm that's in different states. I mean, I'm barred in Massachusetts, as is my wife, and I think for us, we have the office. We haven't been able to do so much with it, as much as we'd like, because we've been so busy here in Florida. But I think having offices that are fully operating and functioning and helping people in different states, I think that would be my legacy. Maybe we get in 2, 3, 4 states. So if there's a lawyer out there who wants to help build a law firm with us in different states, we're certainly structuring our business to be turnkey for other lawyers, So I think there's a lot of things we can do to help other business owners.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I want to say thank you again for joining us
Thank
on
you,
the
Jay.
Winner Circle podcast and for helping us shed light on an issue that affects so many families. This situation is often silently and behind closed doors. But in this episode, you've helped us bring it out how best they can actually navigate the circumstances if it ever arises. So, and for the listeners, if this episode added value to you, I wanted to share it with someone who may need it. And also, I wanted to subscribe to the podcast. And because these conversations like this help people feel less alone and more empowered to take the right step when it matters the most. And this is Jay, and I will say one word. Thank you so much and stay on the Winner Circle. See you on the next episode of the Winner Circle podcast. Thank you, guys.